Have you ever felt like you were doing everything right? Thinking positive, visualizing, believing. You followed the advice, read the books, tried to change your vibration, but still, life didn't change. As if the universe had its eyes closed to you, as if reality didn't care about your thoughts. And deep down, a question began to arise. Silent, painful, persistent. Am I wasting my time? This feeling of spiritual frustration is more common than it seems. There is an invisible pain that accompanies the silent seeker. That feeling of trying to achieve something that always seems to elude you. You meditate, repeat mantras, write down goals. But the next day, the account is still empty. Your heart is still anxious. Reality is still the same. And then the cycle begins. Doubt, guilt, trying. Doubt, guilt, trying. Maybe no one told you that thinking without direction is just noise. That desire without alignment is just anxiety. That faith without structure becomes exhaustion. Maybe they never taught you the difference between wanting something and vibrating that. And this is where change begins. Not with more effort, but with more awareness. Napoleon Hill said that every human being needs a defined main purpose. Without it, your energy scatters. Your mind becomes conflicted. Your vibration fragments. It's like trying to light a fire with the wet wood of doubt and the wind of distraction. And then you think you need more strength, when in fact, you need more clarity. Andrew Carnegie said that everything starts with a desire, but not just any desire. Not the impulsive, hasty, desperate desire, but the desire that arises from the center of your being. A desire that pulsates in coherence with your soul's purpose. Because when desire is confused, the quantum field does not respond. When desire is an escape, manifestation is lost. When desire is fear disguised as a goal, the universe is silent. And that's why you're here, not to hear more empty promises, but to understand, in a practical, spiritual, and emotional way, why your thoughts create your reality, and why they can also be sabotaging everything without you realizing it. It's not about thinking positively. It's about aligning everything that you are, mind, emotion, body, and intention, with the frequency of what you want to experience. In this deep dive, you won't find magic formulas. You'll find truth. You'll understand what really blocks your manifestation. You'll discover practices that reprogram your energy field and restore your connection with what is essential. You'll realize that quantum manifestation is not a mental trick, but a vibrational state, and that thoughts don't create millions on their own. They need alignment, coherence, intention, purpose. You're about to cross a portal that requires presence, courage, and the willingness to leave behind all that is noise, all that is distraction, all that keeps you disconnected from your creative source. This is not an ordinary video. It's a reunion with the truth of your energy. Breathe, make space, feel it, because now the transformation begins. Invisible energy leak. Have you ever noticed how your energy dissipates throughout the day, even when you don't do anything physically tiring? It's as if your soul is being silently drained, drop by drop, without you even realizing it. A tiredness without a visible cause, an absence of presence even when you're awake. This happens because there's something more subtle and devastating at work. The quantum leak of attention. Every time you jump from one notification to another, from one tab to another, from one thought to another, you fragment your consciousness. You disperse the field. And when your attention is divided, your energy is leaking. The quantum field, the one that responds to coherent and directed vibration, does not respond to confusion. It needs focus, consistency, vibrational integrity. But we live in a culture that worships excess. More information, more stimuli, more speed. And the more stimuli, the less presence. The more you try to keep up with everything, the less you can align with anything. It's like trying to tune into several radio stations at once. Everything becomes noise. And in the midst of this noise, your manifestation gets lost. Because for the quantum field, what is not clear is not real. You think you're not manifesting because something is wrong with you, but maybe what is wrong is the mental environment in which you are immersed. a mind that does not stop, an attention that is scattered, a heart that no longer listens. And so, life seems to stand still, but in fact, it is echoing exactly the vibration that you are emitting. Confusion, haste, disconnection. Attention is the channel through which energy moves. When you give it to everything at once, you become exhausted. But when you collect it, when you learn to breathe consciously, to choose what enters and what does not enter your field, then something changes. You begin to feel presence. And where there is presence, there is power. Where there is focus, there is creation. This invisible leak of energy does not have to continue. It is not a destiny, it is a pattern. And patterns can be transformed. But first, you need to recognize that your energy is being stolen by distractions that seem small but have profound consequences, and that your attention is sacred. It shapes reality. If you feel like you're always tired but don't know why, maybe it is time to gather your light. And remember that only when your energy is whole can manifestation be true. Subconscious self-sabotage. There is a part of you that deeply wants to manifest a new reality, a new chapter, a life aligned with your most sincere desires. But there is another part, older, quieter, that is still stuck in invisible patterns. This part is the unconscious, and when it is not understood, it becomes the greatest saboteur of your dreams. The unconscious is like background music that plays all the time, even when you are not paying attention. It dictates how you feel when you wake up. It influences what you believe is possible. It colors your interpretations, your judgments, your choices. And when this background music is tuned to fear, scarcity, or unworthiness, everything you consciously think about is sabotaged before it even reaches the quantum field. It's not that you're failing. It's that, deep inside, there are voices telling you that it's not safe to succeed, that it's not safe to shine, that it's not safe to be loved, to be seen, to be prosperous. These voices were formed long before you knew what energy was. They came from childhood, from traumas, from misunderstood experiences. They're not your fault, but they are your responsibility. And the most subtle thing is that this self-sabotage doesn't happen explosively. It's discreet. A thought that says, "This is too hard." A feeling of discomfort when everything starts to go right. An unconscious choice to distract yourself just when it's time to act. Sabotage doesn't shout, it whispers, and that is why it escapes. But manifestation does not escape it, because the quantum field responds to vibrational truth, not to the mask of intention. Unblocking this pattern is a process of lucidity and compassion. It is not about fighting against yourself. It is about welcoming these wounded parts with presence and understanding, of seeing where pain has become a program, where lack has become repetition, where protection has become a prison. When you begin to look within with truth, the unconscious stops sabotaging and begins to collaborate. The conscious mind is the seed, but the soil is the unconscious. And no seed blooms in soil that rejects the harvest. When you heal the soil, everything changes, because your field begins to vibrate in integrity, in truth, in worthiness. You no longer need to repeat patterns that are not yours. You no longer need to live in a cycle that only repeats itself because it has never been understood. The unconscious is not an enemy. It is just a guardian that has learned to be afraid. And when fear is welcomed with consciousness, it transforms into wisdom. And wisdom opens doors that effort can never open. Quantum resonance explained. Everything in the universe vibrates. Everything pulsates. Every cell, every thought, every emotion has a frequency. And when this frequency is organized into coherence, it becomes a field of attraction, a field of creation. This is the principle of quantum resonance. But what does this really mean in your daily life? Imagine a tuned musical instrument. When you play a note on it, it reverberates cleanly, harmoniously, precisely. Now imagine that same instrument out of tune. The note still sounds, but it comes out distorted, weak, disconnected. This is how your mind is when it is not in coherence. You emit thoughts, desires, affirmations, but if they are not resonating with your emotional field in your body, the universe hears them as noise, as if something were trying to manifest itself. but at incompatible frequencies. Neuroscience shows us that neurons, when they fire in synchrony, create powerful patterns in the brain. They build pathways, create networks, organize energy, and these networks become habits. They become perceptions. They become a vibrational field. This means that it is not enough to think something once. You need to think, feel, and repeat it coherently. Only then can neurons create a bridge between desire and reality. But there is something even deeper. When your emotions are misaligned with your thoughts, you create a divided field, an unstable field. You think of abundance, but you feel fear. You declare love, but you carry hurt. You visualize healing, but you keep your body in a state of tension. And the quantum field, which responds to the dominant frequency, ends up reflecting what is most charged, not what is most beautiful, but what is most real. Quantum resonance does not demand perfection. It demands presence. It demands vibrational consistency. A loose thought does not create. A hasty desire does not attract. But when there is coherence between what you think, feel, believe, and do, then the field organizes itself. It begins to vibrate like a living magnet, and that which previously seemed impossible begins to move in your direction. It is not magic. It is alignment. It is not control. It is connection. You are not creating from scratch. You are tuning in to what already exists in another layer of reality. And the more precise your tuning is, the faster the manifestation becomes concrete. Because the universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you are. And to be is to vibrate. So instead of asking why something hasn't arrived yet, perhaps the more honest question is, what inside me is still out of tune? Because the right frequency doesn't create effort. It creates attraction. And when you become a coherent field, life becomes an answer. The dopamine diversion. There is a silent trap that captures the energy of thousands of people every day. It doesn't seem dangerous at first glance. In fact, it seems pleasurable. One more video, one update, one notification, one little digital reward. But behind this immediate pleasure is a profound deviation, a deviation of vibration, a deviation of consciousness. It's the dopamine diversion. Dopamine is a natural substance in the brain that drives us to desire, to motivation, to pleasure. It is necessary. It is part of our biology. But in excess, in repetitive and uncontrolled patterns, it becomes a prison because it begins to condition us to seek only that which is fast, that which is easy, that which gives results now. And true manifestation does not happen at this pace. It is not immediate. It is not impulsive. It demands a slower, deeper, more stable field. But when the mind is addicted to dopamine, it loses the ability to sustain this field. It becomes agitated. It becomes bored. It jumps from one thing to another. And so the frequency is broken. The alignment is broken. And reality remains the same. You can desire something grand. You can even visualize it in detail. But if your nervous system is conditioned to immediate reward, it does not sustain the energy of creation. It sabotages, it deviates, it seeks relief, and every deviation, no matter how small, fragments the strength of your field. It is not about stopping seeking pleasure. It is about choosing pleasures that feed your vibration and not consume your soul. Quantum manifestation demands deep focus. It demands pleasure in the process, and not just in the arrival, but conditioned dopamine only wants to arrive. It does not tolerate halfway. It does not tolerate silence. It does not tolerate waiting. And without silence, there is no listening. Without listening, there is no response. Without response, there is no manifestation. That is why it is so important to recognize that you are not always distracted because you want to be. Often, you are simply conditioned. Your brain has been trained to skip steps, to avoid discomfort, to exchange the real for the instant. And this training is costly. It costs your presence, it costs your coherence, it costs your vibration. But there is a way out. And it begins when you find pleasure in simplicity again, when you relearn to stay with an emotion, to breathe with intention, to do one thing at a time. When your body begins to slow down, your energy begins to gather. And when your energy is gathered, it has direction again. The dopamine skew is not a mistake. It is a symptom of a soul that has lost connection with deep pleasure. But that pleasure can be restored, and when it returns, manifestation is no longer a goal. It becomes a consequence, because true pleasure is being whole, here, now, vibrating in coherence with that which is seed, path, and harvest, all at the same time. Emotional anchor protocol. Within every emotion is an energy field waiting to be acknowledged. Emotions are not just reactions, they are messages encoded in frequency. They are vibrational portals that, when denied, become blocks, but when embraced with awareness, they become anchors. Anchors that stabilize your vibration, that align you, that bring you back to center. Most people try to manifest from an emotion that is not clear. They affirm abundance with hidden fear. They visualize love with buried hurt. They declare faith with repressed fatigue, and then the field does not respond. Because the dominant vibration is not what you think, it is what you feel. And what you feel, when not processed, rules. The secret is not in eliminating the uncomfortable emotion. It is in finding it, sitting at the table with it, looking it in the eye. The body always shows where it is. Sometimes it is a tightness in the chest. Sometimes it is a tension in the stomach. An unnamed restlessness. When you locate the emotion, you take the first step. When you allow it, without running away, without judgment, you transform it. And when you intend from that place, with presence, with respect, with awareness, your vibration rises, and the field recognizes it. It is as if you cleared the channel, as if your frequency stopped fighting itself. There is no more noise, there is no more resistance. Only what is real exists, and what is real, when aligned, creates. Manifestation begins to flow. Not because emotion has been nullified, but because it has been transmuted. This process does not require haste. It requires presence, and presence is the ground for vibrational transformation. When you anchor your emotion, you anchor your energy, and when your energy is anchored, it can finally expand. Coherence is not the absence of emotion, it is complete presence before it. And this presence is the code that the universe understands. Because it does not respond to what is forced. It responds to what is true. And truth, when embraced, becomes silent power, pure frequency, living reality, the myth of thinking positive. For a long time, we were taught that thinking positive was the key to everything, that all we had to do was keep our minds full of optimistic affirmations, and the universe would bow to our enthusiasm. But the reality is deeper. Because the quantum field does not respond to what you pretend to feel. It responds to what vibrates within you with truth. Thinking positively, when done consciously, can be a catalyst for change. But when it becomes a way to escape pain, it turns into a mask, into anesthesia, into forced silence. And every emotion that is silenced becomes a shadow that contaminates the vibrational field and prevents true manifestation. It is not about rejecting optimism. It is about recognizing when it is being used as an escape, when you say that everything is fine, but inside, your body trembles. When you smile on social media, but at night you feel an emptiness that you cannot name. This forced optimism does not heal. It postpones, it hides, it numbs. True positivity is not the one that says that everything is fine. It is the one that has the courage to look at what is not, to embrace fear, doubt, sadness, without identifying with them, but also without pushing them under the rug. Because what is repressed does not disappear. It just becomes a misaligned vibration. And the quantum field feels this. Healing does not come from denial. It comes from integration. Positive thoughts only work when they are rooted in a body that feels safe, in a heart that has been heard, in a mind that is not at war with its emotions. When there is this inner space, optimistic thoughts become fertile seeds. They take root, they flourish. What you need is not more pretty phrases. It is more real encounters with what you feel. Because when emotion is validated, thought aligns. When thought aligns, energy organizes. And when energy organizes, the universe responds. True positivity is a state of coherent vibration. It is not noisy. It does not need to prove anything. It is calm, stable, honest. And it is from this frequency that manifestation is born, not from the effort of thinking nicely, but from the wisdom of feeling with courage, of honoring with truth, of living with wholeness. Silence versus intention. In a world that celebrates noise, silence has become a forgotten territory, as if being silent were too uncomfortable, too useless, too slow. But the quantum field does not respond to the volume of your speech, nor to the haste of your desire. It responds to the quality of your presence. And presence is born in silence. There is a point at which intention is lost. And it is not for lack of desire. It is for excess effort. When the mind is trying all the time, it occupies all the vibrational space with anxiety, with expectation, with demand. And in this excess, the field has no room to respond. It is like trying to listen to a song with the volume of 1,000 thoughts screaming over it. The message is there, but noise prevents it from being perceived. Silence is not the absence of intention. It is its purest form. It is when you stop pushing reality and start inviting it. It is when you stop controlling and start trusting. And this space of trust is a field of power, because it is there that your vibration stabilizes. It is there that you hear what is behind what you feel. It is there that the truth appears. It is not necessary to live in absolute silence, but it is essential to cultivate moments in which the mind can rest, in which the body can reorganize itself, in which the soul can breathe. Because in this internal rest, intention ceases to be a command and becomes a frequency. And when intention becomes frequency, it becomes quantum language. The universe understands. Energy responds. Most manifestations do not fail due to lack of desire. They fail due to excess noise. Because the quantum field is sensitive. It is receptive. It does not respond to mental shouting. It responds to the vibration that emerges from a heart that has learned to listen, who is no longer afraid of the void, because they have already understood that the void is the womb of creation. Silence is not the absence of action. It is the basis that sustains true action. It is the ground where intention is based, where feeling is organized, where the spirit aligns. And when you learn to move from this silence, your choices change. Your energy changes. Your reality changes. Because now, it is silence that manifests, not as a pause, but as a portal, as an origin, as a frequency without interference, vibrating with clarity, creating with truth, revealing the neural time bias. There is a subtle illusion that keeps thousands of minds in the same place, even when they intensely desire to move. This illusion has an almost invisible name, but a devastating effect: the brain's time bias. It is the unconscious pattern that makes you believe that what you desire is always in the future, always beyond, always ahead, never now. The brain, by evolutionary structure, projects safety in the known and danger in the unknown. And so, even when you desire something new, your nervous system tries to push that new thing further away, as a form of protection, as an attempt to keep you in the place where everything is predictable, even if that place is uncomfortable, even if that place hurts. This bias creates a vibrational delay, because you start living as if the fulfillment were in another time. And everything that is outside of the present time becomes unreachable for the quantum field, because the field only responds to the now. It only listens to what pulses with truth in this exact moment. And if your body is here, but your vibration is projected into tomorrow, then there is a rupture, a disconnection. You start to imagine that change will come when something happens, when you have more money, when you are more prepared, when life is calmer. But what you don't realize is that this when is a reflection of your brain pattern, a pattern that transfers power to time and weakens manifestation in the present moment. Reversing this bias is not about forcing the now. It is about reconnecting the now. It is teaching your body, mind, and emotions to truly feel what you desire as if it already existed vibrationally, not as an illusion, but as a choice of frequency, as an energetic decision to no longer wait, to align yourself. Time is not the enemy, But when your system believes that only in the future will you be able, you deserve, you will have, then your energy aligns with waiting. And waiting, when it becomes a vibrational pattern, creates stagnation. Manifestation moves away because you are vibrating that it has not yet arrived. Bringing desire into the now is not denying the process. It is honoring the frequency. It is creating a field where the future ceases to be hope and becomes presence. Because when you reprogram your brain to feel the now as a territory of creation, then the field responds with more speed, more clarity, more coherence. It is not about chasing the future. It is about integrating the frequency of what you want to experience into your emotional now. Because when the now vibrates in alignment with desire, time bends, and the future begins to approach, not as a dream, but as a reality about to reveal itself. Alignment versus wishful belief. There is a subtle but essential difference between believing and being aligned. Believing can be just a thought. It can be a phrase you repeat, an idea that you really want to be true. But alignment is something else. Alignment is integrated vibration. It is when mind, emotion, body, and intention say the same thing at the same time, with the same frequency. Oftentimes, we believe in our heads, but feel the opposite in our bodies. We say we trust, but our chests are tight. We declare we are prosperous, but our stomachs tighten every time we look at our bank statements. And in that gap between what we think and what we feel, manifestation disintegrates, because the quantum field doesn't read words. It reads frequency, and the most charged frequency is the one that commands. It's not about stopping believing. It's about crossing the veil of superficial belief. It's about transforming belief into presence, into coherence, into vibrational reality. Because true faith isn't in the words you repeat. It's in the silence of your body when everything seems difficult. And yet, you remain at peace. Alignment requires surrender. And surrender isn't giving up. It's vibrational trust. It's when you stop trying to convince the universe and start vibrating as if you already are. Not because you're pretending, but because you've integrated, because you've felt, because you've become. When you add true feeling to conscious intention, you activate a code of manifestation, because feeling is the language of the heart, and the heart, when in coherence with the mind, creates a powerful magnetic field, a field that not only attracts, but transforms, a field that not only desires, but fulfills. Isolated belief is unstable. It sways with the winds of doubt. But alignment is root. It remains even when the storm arrives. It does not need to be proven. It already is. And what already is does not need to be chased, because the universe responds to the vibration of being, not to the desperation of wanting. Maybe you believed for a long time, but without aligning. Maybe you desired intensely, but without integrating. Now is the time to change the axis, to leave the surface of belief and dive into the body of vibration. Because when you truly feel what you think, then the field vibrates with precision, and life begins to reflect your frequency with clarity, without effort, without waiting, only with truth and presence. The nature pause ritual. There is a silent wisdom in nature that the modern mind has forgotten. A wisdom that is not expressed with words, but with rhythm, with cycles, with pauses. The tree does not rush to bloom. The moon does not blame itself for not shining every day. The river does not question itself when it finds a stone in its path. Everything simply follows the flow, with presence, with listening, with harmony. And it is in this wisdom that a simple but profoundly transformative practice is revealed. The pause in nature. In a fast-paced world, full of screens and artificial stimuli, the human body disconnects from the Earth's field. And when this disconnection happens, the vibration becomes disorganized. The nervous system becomes unbalanced. The mind loses its rhythm. And manifestation, which depends on vibrational coherence, begins to fail. It begins to lag. It begins to silence. The pause in nature is not leisure. It is reconnection with the original field. It is a return to the rhythm that sustains life. When you walk among trees, when you breathe with the wind, when you feel the sun on your skin or the sound of running water, something inside you reorganizes itself. It is not effort, it is remembrance. It is not technique, it is return. When you synchronize your breathing with the movement of the leaves, with the swaying of the sky, with the silence of the earth, your field begins to align with a purer frequency, more stable, more receptive. And it is in this frequency that manifestation finds fertile ground, because the quantum field recognizes the natural, the essential, the organic. You don't need to rationally understand everything that is happening. Just be present, feel, allow the vibration of nature to cleanse the excesses of the mind, dissolve the rush, collect what is scattered, and return yourself to yourself. Because true alignment does not happen when you force. It happens when you stop resisting. When you listen, nature demands nothing. It only offers. And when you listen to it, you learn. You learn about time, about flow, about rhythm. You learn that life is not a race. It is a cycle. And within this cycle, there is a perfect moment for everything, including manifesting. This pause does not need to be long, but it needs to be sincere. It needs to be felt, because when you pause with presence, the vibration is anchored. And when the vibration is anchored, the universe listens more clearly, because now you are not just asking, you are tuning in. And in this tuning, life dances with you again, not out of obligation, but out of harmony, out of resonance, out of truth. The 30-day resonance log. There is an intelligence that reveals itself in the small details, in the emotional patterns that repeat themselves, in the choices that arise in moments of fatigue, in the thoughts that return when everything is silent. Most people go through these signs without noticing, but those who want to manifest with truth need to develop a new type of listening, a vibrational listening. And to do this, observing yourself is more valuable than controlling yourself. The Resonance Journal is not just a writing exercise. It is an energetic mirror, a frequency map, a tool that reveals what is behind what you experience every day. By recording emotions, physical sensations, and focus of attention over time, you begin to perceive what was hidden. You begin to see where your energy rises, and where it gets lost, where it pulses, and where it gets stuck. In 30 days, a lot can change. But more than changing, what transforms is perceiving. Because transformation does not happen only when something external changes. It happens when you become aware of the energy that is creating your reality. And this awareness is born from frequent observation, from gentle attention, from looking without judgment. By recording your vibrational state daily, you begin to identify the invisible triggers. That conversation that always destabilizes you. That choice that seems small, but affects your mood for hours. That automatic thought that repeats an old pattern. And most importantly, you begin to recognize the moments when your frequency is coherent, when your body relaxes, when your heart opens, when your mind becomes silent. These records create a vibrational cartography of your journey. And with this cartography, you no longer have to guess. You feel, you know. You begin to make decisions based on frequency, not just logic. You begin to create an alignment with your field, not in a rush for results. The journal becomes more than paper and ink. It becomes a ritual of return, an intimate altar where you reconnect, where you listen to yourself, where you learn to distinguish between true desire and mental noise. And this discernment is the basis of quantum manifestation, because the universe responds to what you sustain with clarity, and clarity is born of deep observation. In 30 days, your external life may not change drastically, but inside, you will no longer be the same, because where there was once reactivity, there is now perception. Where there was noise, there is now listening. Where there was doubt, there is now conscious vibration. And this vibration creates realities with roots, with body, with soul, blocked by the future rush. There is an almost invisible impulse that runs through the mind of those who want to change their lives. An impulse that seems natural, even motivating, but which, in fact, is one of the biggest causes of vibrational blockage. It is the rush for the future, the mental race that constantly projects what has not yet arrived, and, in doing so, abandons the only place where manifestation really happens: the now. The rush for the future is not born of hope, it is born of scarcity, from an internal place that believes that the present is not enough, that there will only be relief, joy, fulfillment, when something happens, when money arrives, when love appears, when the body changes, and without realizing it, you begin to vibrate that the now is wrong, that it needs to be overcome, corrected, accelerated. But the quantum field does not operate based on chronological time. It operates based on the frequency of the present moment. And if your frequency says it's not enough yet, then the universe responds with more situations that reflect that feeling. You enter a cycle of waiting, a cycle in which everything is always almost, always close, but never here. The mind, conditioned by haste, lives in the future. And living in the future generates anxiety, disconnection, misalignment, because every time you vibrate that you will only be happy in the future, you create a field of absence. A field that repeats, unconsciously, it's not now yet, it's not ready yet, it's not possible yet. It is at this point that manifestation becomes distant, not for lack of intention, but for excess projection. Because when the present is denied, it cannot serve as fertile soil, and without soil, no seed will flourish. You can plant 1,000 times in thought, but if the earth is vibrating in haste, it will not sustain roots. The cure for this blockage is not to stop dreaming. It is to start feeling the frequency of what you desire now. It is to realize that alignment does not happen when something changes outside. It happens when you change inside, even before any external sign, when you stop chasing the future and start becoming the channel of what you want to live. When the now is truly embraced, haste dissolves, and in its place a new type of presence is born, a presence that vibrates with power, that manifests without effort, that attracts without anxiety, because it does not wait to be whole. It already is. And the universe, faced with this wholeness, manifests with clarity, with divine timing, with real resonance, coherence as a discipline. Most people seek transformation as if it were an event, a sudden turnaround, an unexpected miracle. But vibrational reality does not bow to isolated impulses. It responds to constancy, to silent discipline, to invisible practice that no one sees, but that the universe hears. Coherence is the state where everything in you vibrates in the same direction, not by chance, but by repeated choice. It is the alignment between what you think, feel, say, do, and believe. This alignment does not happen automatically. It is cultivated, nourished, sustained, and this cultivation is a spiritual practice, an energetic practice, a practice of presence. In a world that values quick results, energetic discipline seems old-fashioned, but it is the soil of true manifestation. Because the quantum field needs stability to organize itself, and this stability is born from simple rituals, done with intention, like writing, breathing with awareness, declaring words that sustain your frequency, even when everything seems still. Journaling is not just writing down what happened during the day. It is transforming thoughts into presence. It is giving form to the energy that, if not named, becomes noise. Conscious breathing is not just breathing in and out. It is telling the body that it is safe, that it can relax, that it no longer needs to run to be accepted. And micro-decrees, small affirmations repeated with truth, are not empty mantras. They are vibrational codes that reprogram the field, little by little. Coherence becomes discipline when you understand that your frequency needs to be maintained, not just accessed. Because entering a high vibrational state for a few minutes is easy. What is difficult is sustaining this state throughout the day, amid challenges, routine, pain that insists on returning. But it is in this sustenance that reality begins to move. When you commit to your energy as a daily practice, you become a source. And the source does not depend on circumstances. It creates, it nourishes, it transforms. Coherence, when repeated, becomes a field, and the field, when stabilized, becomes a portal through which manifestation ceases to be an attempt and becomes a consequence. It is in this space, between the subtle and the constant, that silent magic happens, not as a spectacle, but as a living vibration, as a reality that blossoms from the inside out, as a life that responds to the fidelity of its frequency. And this fidelity is its greatest power, its greatest vibrational legacy, its true calling, the real life reset. Have you ever met someone who lost everything they believed in? An entrepreneur who invested himself, who dreamed big, who envisioned millions, and suddenly saw everything fall apart. The tight bills, the cancelled contracts, the heavy heart. But a few months later, this same person discovered an invisible bridge between chaos and rebirth, internal realignment. What seemed like a failure was, in fact, a silent invitation to rebuild not only plans, but also frequency, to review founding beliefs and adjust vibrations before building a new reality. The quantum field, when it finds coherence after the storm, not only rebuilds, it reinvents. It rebuilds in a more solid, wiser, more aligned way. In this case, the body and mind were drained of certainty. With each new attempt, the echo of doubt came. So, the turning point was not a new technique. It was the healing of deep roots that sustained the fear of being too big. The field was nourished with the re-establishment of identity, with reconnection to purpose, with a small routine of presence aimed at understanding, welcoming, and reorganizing. From 6 months to a year later, it wasn't just the business that returned. It was the very frequency of being that returned. Calmer, clearer, deeper. The manifestation happened not by decree, but by daily coherence. Every day, the energy of purpose was installed in silent gestures, in the intention before each email, in the breath before each decision, in the present attention in each meeting. And then something changed. Opportunities began to arrive like echoes from the remade field, as if the universe was saying, "Now that you have returned in one piece, I return with an answer." And what seemed like just a big mistake became the great new beginning, the reset that only happens when the inner alignment is ready to create with power and humility. The heart-brain bridge. There is a space within you where thought meets feeling, where the rational mind bows before emotional wisdom, where the impulse for action aligns with the listening of the soul. This space is the bridge between the brain and the heart. And it is in this space that the most powerful manifestation happens. For a long time, science separated reason and emotion as if they were opposing forces. But the latest research shows that the heart is not just an organ. It is an electromagnetic field that radiates energy stronger than any other center in the body. When this field pulses in coherence with the signals from the brain, something changes. The vibrational field expands. Internal communication aligns, and the universe hears more clearly. Joe Dispenza, among other scholars of spiritual neuroscience, has shown that when you enter a state of coherence between the heart and the brain, the body stops operating in survival mode. It starts operating in creation mode. And in this state, the frequency you emit carries an emotional signature that the quantum field recognizes, a signature of truth, of harmony, of vibrational integrity. But how does this bridge break? When the heart feels something that the mind does not recognize. When the thought wants to go in one direction, but the body is on alert. When the emotion asks for silence, but the mind demands haste. It is in this misalignment that energy is lost, that the field is fragmented, that reality becomes a mirror of contradiction. Restoring this bridge is a process of listening and presence. It is not about nullifying the mind, nor about surrendering everything to feeling. It is about synchronizing, allowing thought to bow to the wisdom of feeling. That planning respects intuition, that focus walks alongside the internal compass. When this happens, intention ceases to be just desire and becomes a vibration that transforms. Manifestation is not just a creative mind, nor just a dreaming heart. It is the meeting of these two centers in a dance of coherence, where what you think vibrates with what you feel, and what you feel drives what you do. In this coherence, creation becomes fluid, alive, organic. You do not need to force the universe to listen to you. You just need to learn to vibrate in a way that it recognizes. And the heart, when united with the brain, does not just create, it reveals what has always been yours, what has always been there, waiting for the day when you would stop sharing your power and start integrating your essence. From the inside out, with truth and with love. Dissonance. Detection hack. There are times when everything seems to be right on the mental plane. You know what you want. You say the right words. You practice the visualizations. But for some unseen reason, life doesn't respond. Nothing moves. Nothing blossoms. It's like something is out of whack, but you don't know exactly what. That something is vibrational dissonance. Dissonance is not a moral error. It's a subtle misalignment between what you want and what you're vibrating. It's the invisible space between conscious intention and unconscious emotion. And often, it manifests in the body before it becomes conscious. A sudden tiredness, an irritation for no reason, a slight but constant agitation. The body feels it before the mind understands it. These signs are not obstacles. They are compasses. Impatience, for example, is one of the first warnings. It shows that you are trying to speed up the universe's time with the anxiety of the ego. Agitation reveals that desire has become a demand, that the field is being pressured, not nourished. Physical tension, the kind that accumulates in the neck, chest, and jaw, is often proof that thought and feeling are in a silent war. Learning to identify these signs is one of the most compassionate acts you can practice. Because healing does not begin with more effort. It begins with more listening. When you notice dissonance without judging yourself, you begin to restore the field. You begin to breathe within. You begin to honor what is misaligned without trying to erase it, without trying to run over it. Each vibrational discomfort is a door to realignment. But this door does not open with control. It opens with presence, with the decision to no longer ignore what the body is telling you, to not ignore the emotion that visits you. Because sometimes manifestation is just a step away, but that step is an internal adjustment, a choice to listen instead of pushing. When you honor these signs, the field reorganizes. The body relaxes. The energy starts circulating again, and with it, the possibility of creating coherently also returns. Because the universe does not demand perfection, but it responds precisely to your truth. And when your truth is welcomed, even with all its imperfections, it vibrates. And that vibration is the beginning of everything that can flourish. Without noise, without resistance, with soul and with roots, reversing the inner critic. Within every human being, there is a voice that learned, even in childhood, that it needed to be perfect to be loved, that it needed to be strong to not be rejected, that it needed to do everything right to deserve recognition. That voice is the inner critic, and although it seems like an enemy, it is actually just a wounded part, trying to protect. The inner critic is not born of evil. It is born of fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of being abandoned. And that's why, even when you're getting closer to something big, it shows up, telling you that you're making a mistake, that you don't deserve it, that it's going to go wrong again. And this criticism, even if silent, creates a vibrational field of sabotage, because the vibration of guilt and self-deprecation prevents manifestation from flourishing. But this voice doesn't need to be silenced by force. It needs to be transformed. And the transformation begins when you stop fighting it and start listening with compassion, because behind every criticism there's an unrecognized pain. A child who once felt inadequate, a fragment of the soul that learned to attack so as not to be attacked. The key is to ask new questions. Instead of saying, "Why am I like this?" you can ask, "What is this part of me trying to protect?" Instead of reinforcing the guilt, you can bring light. How can I embrace myself in this moment? This change in tone doesn't erase the critic. It gives it new meaning. It transforms attack into care, judgment into awareness, toughness into presence. When the inner critic is truly acknowledged, he stops sabotaging because he feels safe. He realizes he no longer needs to control. He understands he can trust. And in that trust, his energy begins to reorganize. The vibration of fear dissolves, and the space within begins to expand. Manifestation does not require you to be perfect. It requires you to be whole. And being whole is including all parts, even those that have learned to survive through rigidity. When these parts are integrated, the field becomes more stable, more loving, more receptive. You do not need to silence your inner voice. You need to heal the tone with which it speaks to you, because often what blocks manifestation is not the world outside. It is the way you treat yourself inside. And when that way changes, everything around you begins to respond with more lightness, more truth, more openness, like a gentle echo of your own choice to love yourself completely. When ask, believe, receive fails. Have you ever wondered why that famous manifestation model, so often repeated around the world, sometimes just doesn't work? You ask, you believe, you prepare to receive. But even so, the universe seems silent. No sign, no response, no change. And over time, a feeling of spiritual frustration begins to emerge, as if something is wrong, but you don't know what. The truth is that the ask, believe, receive model oversimplifies a process that is much deeper, more vibrational, more subtle. It assumes that wanting is enough, but wanting alone does not create, because in the quantum field, it is not the request that commands, it is the vibration. When you ask from scarcity, the field hears scarcity. When you believe with your mind, but your body vibrates fear, the field feels the conflict. When you try to prepare to receive, but your heart is closed by old traumas, the field does not find coherence. And where there is no coherence, there is no manifestation. It is not about abandoning the model. It is about completing it, transforming the request into aligned intention, making belief a vibrational state, not just a mental one. And above all, preparing yourself to receive with your entire body, with your nervous system in a state of openness, with your heart in a state of permission, with your soul in a state of surrender. Receiving is not passive. It is an internal movement of expansion, a vibrational yes, an available space within you. And often, before receiving, you need to release old fears, inherited beliefs, unconscious vows of unworthiness, because the universe cannot fill a field that is full of resistance. Manifestation happens when the field finds a path, and the path does not open with formulas. It opens with truth, with vibrational practice, with continuous realignment, with subtle and consistent choices that say to the universe, I do not just want it, I am ready, I am. And in this state, the model transforms. Asking becomes attunement, believe becomes feel, receive becomes being. And when you vibrate like someone who already has, life responds, not like magic, but as an inevitable consequence of those who have learned to align desire and frequency, word and presence, mind and heart, everything in the same field, everything in the same yes. 3-level intentions map. Not every intention becomes reality, and not because it is not good, but because many times it does not go through the 3 fundamental levels of vibrational creation. Most people manifest from the level of the conscious mind. They say what they want. They write down goals. They make vision boards. But the quantum field requires more than words. It requires vibrational depth, energetic integration, alignment between the 3 levels of intention. The first level is conscious desire. It is what you know you want, what you express out loud, what you visualize with your eyes closed. This desire is necessary. It gives direction. It paves the way. But this alone is not enough. The second level is the subconscious impression. This is what you truly believe, even when you're not thinking about it. These are the memories, beliefs, and emotional records that shape your frequency when you are on autopilot. If, deep down, you believe that you do not deserve it, that it is difficult, that it always goes wrong, this subconscious impression sabotages the conscious intention, because the field responds to what vibrates the strongest. and the unconscious often vibrates higher than you imagine. The third level is energetic alignment. This is the vibrational state that you cultivate daily. It is your body as an instrument of manifestation, your breath as an opening channel, your presence as a magnetic field. When this level is in harmony with the other two, manifestation does not need to be forced. It happens fluidly, naturally, with precision. This three-level map reveals that manifestation is, in fact, a process of unification. When there is separation between what you want, what you believe, and what you vibrate, the energy disperses. But when everything is in the same field, clear intention, reprogrammed belief, coherent energy, the universe recognizes it and responds. It's not about perfection. It's about being in tune, moving inward before projecting outward, feeling before demanding, clearing before building. Because when intention comes from these three integrated levels, it becomes not just a request, but a presence. And this presence, in and of itself, begins to create. It begins to attract. It begins to open invisible but real paths. Profound, aligned, inevitable. Manifestation as a moral act. In a world where manifestation is often presented as an end in itself, like acquiring a car, a house, a specific amount in your bank account, it becomes essential to reclaim what Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie knew deeply. Manifesting is, above all, a moral act. Not in the sense of right or wrong, but in the sense of serving that which is greater than you. True manifestation does not happen just to fulfill individual desires. It flourishes when it is connected to the purpose of elevating, of contributing, of transforming the collective field. Because everything you vibrate does not only affect your reality, it affects the world around you. Vibration is a universal language, and when you vibrate with purity, with noble intention, with an open heart, this energy touches more than just your life. It spreads, it reverberates, it heals. Carnegie said that desire, when anchored in service to others, gains multiplied strength. It overcomes resistance. It opens doors. Because the universe favors those who wish not only to receive, but also to overflow. Those who understand that the abundance that comes to them is not the end. It is the starting point. When you manifest with this spirit, your intention changes quality. It expands. It stops being just about you and starts to include others. The collective. The invisible web that connects all souls. And it is at this moment that the quantum field gains power. Because now your request is not just a personal desire. It is an energetic prayer that amplifies the frequency of the world. This does not mean denying your dreams. It means including them in something greater. It means realizing that true prosperity is not sustained by the ego. It blossoms in the soul. And the soul has a silent commitment to goodness, to light, to the elevation of life in all its forms. Manifesting with moral awareness means assuming energetic responsibility. It means knowing that what you create in your life will be reflected in the field around you. And so each choice, each intention, each thought can be a seed of healing or of repetition. When your manifestation becomes a channel of service, the universe trusts you more because it recognizes that you are vibrating with the right intention, with an aligned purpose, with an awakened soul. And when this happens, reality doesn't just change. It becomes illuminated with clarity, with coherence, with purpose, and with truth. There is a profound difference between throwing seeds into the wind and planting with intention. Napoleon Hill always knew this. He knew that it is not enough to have seeds of desire. You need to have aligned soil, fertile soil, vibrational soil that welcomes what is true and dissolves what is noise. And this soil is you, not the you who tries to impress the universe with force, but the you who surrenders to your own rhythm, who honors your own pain, who commits to your own light. Because only when you align yourself from the inside out can the seed take root, can find direction, can blossom with truth. Andrew Carnegie said that desire, when it is in the service of life, gains multiplied power. And today, more than ever, this is an essential reminder. Manifesting is not just about attracting to yourself. It is overflowing into the world. It is creating a reality that elevates not only your experience, but the collective vibration, because everything that passes through you also transforms what is around you. It is not about desiring less, but about desiring with more awareness, more presence, more integrity, because manifestation is not the fruit of blind optimism. It is the result of a living practice, a disciplined art, an honest dive into your own energy fields, where thought, emotion, and intention embrace and become a single frequency. True manifestation begins when you decide to stop waiting for external miracles, and you begin to become the field where the miracle happens, when you choose, even in silence, to take care of your vibration as if you were taking care of a temple. And this choice, repeated in simple gestures, in micro practices, in conscious breathing, changes everything. Therefore, at the end of this dive into consciousness, the invitation is simple and profound. Choose a micro-alignment, a gesture, a habit, a ritual, something that can be your anchor, your vibrational practice, your reminder that the creative power is within you. It always has been, because in the end, you are not just a spectator of reality, you are the quantum farmer, the one who chooses the seeds with intention, who prepares the soil with presence, who waters with emotional frequency, and who trusts in divine timing, trusts in the silent response of the universe, trusts that everything that is true blooms. You are this soil, this seed, this field, this harvest, everything at the same time. And perhaps all that life needed to hear from you today was this: yes, I am ready. I am aligned. I am the field of manifestation itself.